like let's say heat exchangers in the HVAC industry, or an engineer designs a braking system for a car, or even a digital architect who is building an IoT and AI-driven platform, 80% of the product emissions are literally logged in the design phase. And the logical question is, today in today's world, like where is this design happening? And it's right happening at GCCs. Quite a lot of GCC are up at the value stream, leading the design and development of the physical and digital products. So in a way, the GCCs, and especially the leadership, has a control of 80% of the emissions that the products are going to have in next, like let's say 10, 20 years. So there are three important roles I see the GCC leadership can and should play. The very fundamental one is act as an architect of value creator, because he's the one, or he or she is the one who brings the global sustainability strategy back into action. That's what we call it, as a rubber meets the road. And the second important element is, how do we equip our talent with the right tools? For example, if you're in a research and development organization building physical products, it's important for the engineers to understand, how do we model our designs? Do we have enough multi-physics simulation models? Can I look at carbon versus cost impact optimization? Can I look at performance versus carbon optimization? And the most important thing that we started looking at is design for sustainability. We all heard of design for manufacturability, design for assembly, design for automation, but I think in today's world, it's very important to look at design for sustainability. I think the leadership can enable embedding the framework of design for sustainability in the entire product lifecycle development. And third, and the most important one, which is my own favorite, is how do we build the culture of driving innovation with responsibility, right? So I think these are the three important things that GCC leadership can start looking at. Probably the amount of the contribution that goes from GCC on sustainability, I think we should be looked at as decarbonization centers, or even carbon saving centers, right, moving forward.
That's a new name, Praneeth. Thanks for bringing this up. I think one myth that you broke with this was that sustainability or carbon, etc., has to sit on the other side of the table when you talk about profitability or cost. It's a synonym, right? It goes hand in hand. Carbon and cost, as you said, would go hand in hand. Joe, any thoughts from your side?
See, essentially, in my opinion, sustainability is a strategy.
Yeah.
It is not a sentiment any longer, right? And if you look at how the GCCs are running today, they've removed sustainability from the CSR activities.
Yes.
It has become a part of your leadership board. It has become part of your leadership metrics itself. Today, GCCs are at the cusp where the data, the analytics, the processes, everything are there. Today, they are defining how your systems are going to be architected. Your processes are going to be automated, and also how your talent actually works. So if you look at it, I think there is a dynamic shift in, it is green by design, not green by retrofitting, right? And also, how do you prioritize all of your investments for long-time resilience and reliability, rather than any kind of a short-term goals? That's where the GCCs are actually playing a much, much fundamental role. As I said, it's a part of the strategy. It is part of the customer success.
Thank you, Joe. Very well said, I guess. Yeah. Chandra?
Yeah, I'll plus one both to Praneeth and Joe. I think, sustainability for design, I would extend it sustainability in technology and architecture, right? Joe mentioned about having the access to all the data engineering teams, or product engineering teams, the analytics, the AI. A lot of GCCs, when we meet their leaders, they boast about the fact that this kind of a presence of talent is available only in India, except for the headquarters for them in the world, right? So GCCs that way have a great advantage, wherein they have all the skills available, sustainability in every decision that they make. I think, similar to what Joe was talking about. But any decision that you're making, look at it, how does it impact from sustainability lens, right? And we have such amazing talent available. If we can create, hackathons, we keep seeing some hackathons around AI and data and all of that. but can we do some sustainability aligned hackathons, for example, right? Bring in that awareness that sustainability should be looked at every decision, every technical choice, every decision that you're making, you need to look at it from a sustainability lens as well, right? And that mind shift change, right, from just reporting to then co-owning sustainability OKRs along with the global leadership team will then move India GCCs up the value chain even from a sustainability perspective.
Again, very well said. I think what you're saying is sustainability is getting embedded in your normal business operations, decisions. It's kind of getting into that business as usual center rather than an afterthought for businesses largely. But just one question. So when GCCs were designed, was it something that was planned for, or do you think for the past years you've seen more and more of sustainability work, thought process getting seeped into the GCCs and leaderships, they're driving it?
So let's start like the first set of the GCCs or GICs is what it was called
Yeah.
at those older days, right? So when you kind of look at it, I think sustainability was not even a factor that was considered. And it was an afterthought, right? So if you look at it, the parent company sitting outside of India probably had certain metrics that they had to do it. And the GCCs back in India were primarily collecting all of that information. And it was more like, a reporting structure is what I would say. ABCD is being done. So it could probably answer a question like, how much of carbon did we emit last year, right? So it was an afterthought, as I said. I think the second era of GCCs is where people started asking questions, can we reduce a carbon footprint for the next year? Right, this is where they started looking at the data, then they started trying to do some kind of a forecast. I wouldn't say they were the advanced models or it was the advanced stage of the GCC evolving is what I would probably say, but the second stage was more where people started asking questions, if not anything else. I think the current stage at which we are is the sustainability intelligence or the green intelligence is what I would want to talk about, because this is becoming a part of a culture. It's becoming a part of mindset. Today, as I said, GCCs are architecting solutions. So when they are architecting solutions, they're starting to think, can I bring down the carbon footprint the way I'm designing my data centers or the way I'm actually designing my cloud infrastructure? So that is becoming a part of the culture. Today, when we are talking about processes, when we are automating the processes, we are trying to start thinking about how can we automate it to create a superior experience. Now, when you look at and put all of this into perspective, it is nothing but sustainability. It is a resilience that we are talking about. And resilience and sustainability are two sides of the same coin, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. So you're talking about, again, the same thing that Praneeth was also starting to talk about, basically embedding sustainability into the design of all data centers, much more pertinent with the DC and the AI boom that's happening around the world. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, Praneeth.
Yeah. Sure. I think we have definitely observed the evolution in terms of how GCCs contribute towards sustainability, like what Joe said and Chandra touched upon. Initially we were like mostly focused on data collection, reporting, and then next one step forward, building some level of insights that drive value to our customers. But I think today we are at a stage where we are really talking about being part of the strategic initiatives. If I can quote a couple of examples, like let's say an engineer designing a high efficient product that eventually goes into the data center that directly has an impact on scope 1 emissions for hyperscalers, right? Back in 2021, Carrier has committed to avoid 1 gigaton of emissions for our customers. Just to put just to tell about how much the 1 gigaton actually means, it's equivalent to 1 billion tons of emissions. That's nothing but removing 200 million gasoline-powered cars off the road in a year, right? That's the level of emissions that we are really talking about. We said by end of 2030, we would avoid 1 gigaton emissions for customers. When we look back by end of 2025, we have already reduced 490 million tons of emissions for our customers, or we have avoided to our customers. How does it happen? So it really happens the way you design the products, the way you design your digital infrastructure, because these digital infrastructures are better in terms of optimizing the energy usage, both at the building levels, home levels, and more importantly, at a data center level, right? I think the GCCs have started moving up in the value stream and helping the customers to achieve their ESG goals.
Thanks, Praneeth. So I think we kind of covered quite a bit of ground in terms of sustenance of businesses with sustainability, right, in the initial few discussions. Now we are moving towards profitability of businesses with sustainability. And Chandra, Amazon, AWS is always in the news doing that. So how does your sustainability strategy